There are going to be times when you cannot change the world, but you can, as the Course says, and must indeed change your mind about the purpose of the world. Are you going to join or are you going to separate? So I thought that was pretty powerful. So to me, how do we move from our specialness, which can be feel so justified in, to one of healing, or the process, as the Course would say, of a holy relationship where we join in unity? Well, we don't know how we're going to get there. But the power of listening, the power of stilling our minds, the power of the voice for God does know how to get us there. And if we are willing to listen, we'll move in that direction. That's, to me, what this is really talking about. So we get into this fourth paragraph. And it says, it is in this special relationship, born of the hidden wish. Now, this is interesting, for special love from God, that the ego's hatred triumphs. Now, we'll come back to that. For the special relationship is the renunciation of the love of God and the attempt to secure for the self, the small self, the specialness that he denied, that God denied us. It is essential to the preservation of the ego that you believe this specialness is not hell, but heaven. For the ego would never have you see that separation could only be loss, being the one condition in which heaven could not be. The ego wants you to believe that your specialness protects you and makes you safe. It is what every other ego out there will agree with you with, justify with. And what this is saying is, we can get a lot of ego justification for that, but that's not heaven. That's hell, even if the egos all agree. So it says here, go back to this, it's very important. It's a special relationship born of the hidden wish for special love from God, that the ego's hatred triumphs. For the special relationship is the renunciation of the love of God and the attempt to secure for the self, the specialness that we think God denied us. And that goes back, this just harkens back to the Garden of Eden. We think we want to be special. This is where the Course says is that the basis of the birth of this world, the illusion of this world. This world is nothing more than us trying to be like God. It's a parody of God. We are trying to be just like God in our creation of things by our special relationships. The Course would say that in this mistaken thought, when we were in, say, for example, this state of oneness with God, that's the pre-separation story, if you will, the Garden of Eden, let's just use those terminologies that we're so used to, where all was one. That the thought in the Course says, the thought entered the mind of the Son of God that he could be separate from his Creator, right? Very similar to the story of when the thought entered the mind of Adam and Eve when they ate of the tree of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. What entered their mind? But duality, that there could be an opposite to love, that there could be an opposite to good in that mind, in that way of thinking about it. In that thought, it says basically the world was born. But how does the ego say the world was born? It says we did something wrong. We're not special to God anymore. He banished us from all perfection. And so we keep trying to create something where we're good again, where we are special again. And those are poor attempts at kind of healing this thought of separation are our relationships, our special relationships, our special hate relationships, and our special love relationships. Whereas the Course would say, what about the separation? It says, a mad idea entered your mind that you could ever be separate from your source. And in the thought of this separation, you didn't look at it and go, oh, that's silly, and chuckle at it. Because you did, the Son of God remembered not to laugh at the insanity of that thought that you could be separate from your Creator. And in that thought of seriousness, did the entire physical world come into play. It is a thought in your mind, and just as you change your mind about thinking about people and see the transformation change, so does your world change as you change your mind and remember, as it says, the love of God instead of the attack. So that's what this is saying here. All special relationships that are based on separation. Special hate, separate those people I don't like so I can feel better about myself. Or special love, you and I against the world. If I find you and you like me and I like you, now we've got a fortress to defend each other against this big bad world out there. You know? And so in some way, it's always a way to separate us out. What would I do without him? How could I survive without him? You know, that's a marriage. And he goes, how could he survive without me? And if we both agree with that, we got a marriage made in heaven. Because we both need each other. He can't survive without me. I can't survive without him. You know? And that's the kind of relationship that it's hard to see sometimes, but is the sense of specialness. Now we have to realize that we are complete within ourselves. Then we can still have a wonderful relationship, but no longer is he needing something from me and I needing something from him. We are complete within ourselves. And that's what this is talking about. The special relationship is a way to be special when we feel God did not give us that specialness, that he's denied us. It is essential to the preservation of the ego that you believe this specialness, that you and this other person, or you and this other thought system, or you and this other belief, that this is not hell, but this is heaven. That separating other people out from your life or separating other groups of people from your awareness or your completion is not hell, but heaven. So separation can give you peace. You don't hear the voice for God when you hold on to separating thoughts, Bobby. Marilyn doesn't hear the voice for God when she wants to hold on to her old separating ideas and ways about other people or other things, right? None of us do. We don't hear the voice for God because our minds, not that he's not speaking to us, but we choose not to hear it. Specialness is not hell but heaven. The ego wants you to think that it is heaven. It is not. For the ego would never have you see that separation could only be loss, being the one condition in which heaven cannot be. Heaven cannot be experienced in separating thoughts. Heaven can only be experienced in unity. That's why the awareness, when people say to me, is anybody reached enlightenment? Well, no one can see enlightenment if you have thoughts of separation in your minds. When our minds are in unity, that is enlightenment. Enlightenment is but a recognition of our oneness with God. And nothing changes. You look the same as everybody else. That's like those wonderful workbook lessons that say, you know, when you join your mind with God, you look no different than anybody else. Your forehead is serene, and you smile more often. And those that think you are like them as you were before will recognize you as the same as you always were, although you have changed.